Honestly, I'm not too familiar with how the final scene of my marriage unfolded. When Candace returned from the conference, I was 30,000 foot in the air. I'd like to think she walked in, greeted me, expressed how much she missed me, and was happy to be home. Maybe she hoped I'd have dinner ready, as usual. Perhaps she frowned upon finding a printout of her recent escapades with my boss, her boss, a close friend, and even my lawyer, along with divorce papers and a prenup. I'd like to think she was upset, but truthfully, I don't know. A month ago, I discovered her infidelity, which blindsided me. I'm 27, set to inherit $70 million at 32, the source of my current troubles. Despite my wealth, I worked as an accountant in Melbourne. I was raised to respect everyone, regardless of their education. Orphaned at 21, I inherited the family fortune after a tragic plane crash. Yet I never flaunted my wealth. I met Candace casually one night, leading to a regrettable affair. After a night of revelry, Candace and I stumbled upon a surprising revelation. We genuinely liked each other. It was an ironic twist of fate that led to this realization, as Candace had been consoling a friend who had just discovered her boyfriend's infidelity. In the months that followed, our relationship progressed through a series of casual dates until we reached a point where exclusivity felt like the natural next step. During those initial stages, Candace appeared unperturbed by my financial status. She was carving out her own successful career at one of the city's top marketing firms, earning a respectable salary. Looking back, I was under the impression that our marriage was thriving. As a young, affluent couple, we seldom dined at home, preferring instead to frequent the city's fine dining establishments. Weekdays were marked by joint gym sessions, while Saturdays were reserved for city escapades, whether it was sampling gourmet cuisine, hitting the dance floor at clubs, or enjoying a good laugh at a local comedy club. Recalling the moment I proposed to her, I shuddered at the stark contrast with what I now knew. Back then, her acceptance filled me with an overwhelming sense of luckiness, despite her being what many would consider conventionally average in appearance. As our marriage progressed over 2 years, discussions about starting a family emerged. Yet in hindsight, it marked the beginning of a downward spiral. Candace's frequent work-related trips initially raised no cause for concern on my part. After all, isn't trust an inherent part of loving someone? It was only when my manager and partner, George Seaman, announced a lengthy business trip that my suspicions were aroused. His departure coincided with Candace's upcoming 3-week conference, a coincidence that seemed innocuous at first. It wasn't until a chance encounter with an intern named Iona that the truth began to unravel. As she entered my office following George's announcement, Iona's demeanor betrayed a hidden agenda. "Hi, Thomas," she greeted me, prompting me to pause my work on a corporate spreadsheet. Little did I know that her presence would unveil a reality I was ill-prepared to confront. Iona Brown was petite, yet strikingly beautiful, with long golden hair cascading down her back, piercing blue eyes, and an air of sophistication that exuded professionalism. Despite her modest attire, she always conveyed a sense of dedication to her work. In just 3 months, she would conclude her tenure with us and embark on a year-long journey across Australia before heading to Germany to reunite with relatives. Despite our brief interactions over coffee, I found her to be refreshingly honest and uncompromising when it came to ethics. Her integrity was evident when she intervened to prevent a junior accountant from cutting corners on a project, despite her status as a trainee. When I noticed the solemn expression on her face, I sensed the gravity of the impending conversation. "Is everything all right, Iona?" I inquired, furrowing my brow in concern. After a moment's hesitation, she requested a private discussion over lunch, leading us to a popular sandwich shop downtown. As we sat down, she unexpectedly reached for my hand, causing my curiosity to pique. However, her blush and apology revealed a vulnerability I hadn't anticipated. Feeling a knot form in my stomach, I realized this conversation held significant implications. Memories of past troubles resurfaced, prompting a sense of unease. Despite my attempt to maintain composure, I couldn't shake the apprehension brewing within me. "It's all right, Iona," I reassured her, masking my own anxieties. "But I'm concerned. What's on your mind?" In the next 20 minutes, Iona revealed how she overheard George Simon discussing plans to entertain guests in 2 weeks. Blushing, she disclosed that George had arranged a coffee meetup and she covertly captured photos of him embracing a mystery woman who turned out to be my wife, Candace. The shock was palpable as I stared at the incriminating photo. Iona expressed remorse, recognizing Candace from a picture on my desk. I was devastated, nearly losing my lunch as I processed the betrayal. Attempting to regain composure, Iona gently touched my arm, prompting me back to reality. Struggling to find words, I acknowledged her concern, but conceded to the inevitable need for legal action. However, Iona hesitated, revealing another unsettling detail. My lawyer would be accompanying George and Candace the following week. As panic threatened to overwhelm me, I grappled with the realization that money was at the heart of this betrayal. In a moment of clarity mixed with disgust, I resolved to excuse myself and feign illness to buy time. With determination masked by inner turmoil, I made a decision. I needed to leave, to compose myself, and to devise a plan to confront the impending storm of betrayal and deceit. Have Mary call Candace and let her know I'm sick. I'm heading to the doctor, I instructed. Mary, our office manager, also doubled as our assistant bookkeeper. Standing abruptly, Iona rose with me. I can't thank you enough, I expressed, offering a strained smile. Your honesty likely saved me from a dire situation. Can you share this with Mary and keep it between us? Iona nodded without hesitation, affirming her loyalty in quiet German. I'm sorry, Thomas. I hope you won't hold it against me, she said. I reassured her, extending my hand. No grudges, I owe you. Consider me a friend for life. With mutual smiles, we parted ways. I headed to a restroom, inducing vomiting to maintain the ruse of illness. After a brief call to my doctor, I arranged an appointment, securing a sick leave and medication for a presumed stomach ailment. Leaving the clinic, I resolved to take action. Driving to a nearby hotel, I checked in and settled in my room. Shortly after, Candace called, expressing concern over my health. Faking illness as usual, I assured her I was fine, but requested clothes and toiletries be brought to me, feigning a need for rest. Surprised by her genuine concern, I couldn't help but feel conflicted about her fidelity in light of recent revelations. I'll be better in a few days, Candace, I assured, feigning a cough. We chatted briefly, but I couldn't shake the image of Candace and George in my mind, courtesy of Iona's revelation. As we ended the call, doubts lingered, prompting me to take action. With my laptop and satchel in hand, I searched for private investigators online. After contacting several agencies, I secured a meeting with one for the next morning and scheduled a consultation with a rival law firm, Bradman, Torrance, and Clark. Unable to sleep, I tossed and turned, plagued by uncertainty. Candace's concern during her morning call only fueled my suspicions. Despite considering alternate explanations, I couldn't ignore the evidence presented to me by Iona. Determined to uncover the truth, I left the B&B, informing the front desk of my return later, and hailed a car to discreet investigators. Inside, I recounted the situation to a cautious investigator named Norm, who ensured our privacy before proceeding. Sharing the incriminating photos with him, I requested surveillance on both my wife and my boss. I want to know the truth before taking any action, I declared, hoping for clarity amidst the chaos. Norm noticed my hesitation immediately. Something on your mind? He inquired, raising an eyebrow. Gathering my thoughts, I explained. I'm not entirely sure what's happening, but there's talk of money involving my wife and boss. With a significant trust fund in my future, I need assurance that you understand the stakes. After a brief pause, Norm returned with paperwork outlining their confidentiality and financial terms. Assuring me of their capability, he assured, "We'll handle everything you need." Signing the forms, we sealed our agreement with a handshake before Norm assured me that surveillance would commence by day's end. Covering all expenses, I left for my meeting with Ranwick Johnston, our long-standing family attorney. Despite his trustworthiness, recent events left me with no choice but to seek legal counsel. Damien Torrance, eager to secure my business, wasted no time in addressing my concerns upon my arrival. Explaining my suspicions of collusion between my wife, boss, and attorney, I expressed my need for defense. With a sense of urgency, I braced myself for the tumult ahead, determined to navigate the impending storm of betrayal and safeguard my interests. Lawyers are often depicted as cold and indifferent, focused solely on profit. Damien Torrance embodied this stereotype, clad in an expensive suit and occupying an imposing office overlooking Melbourne. After recounting my situation, Damien turned to face the cityscape, absorbing my narrative. "You enjoy a challenge, don't you?" he remarked, his grin sharp. Offering a tempting proposition, he pledged a 25% discount on services and additional billable hours if I transferred my business to his firm. Intrigued, I questioned his motives. Addressing me by name, Damien emphasized the value of retaining my account, citing potential benefits for both parties. Recognizing his strategic approach, I marveled at his salesmanship. Over the next hour, we finalized terms, and I signed the contract, facilitated by his efficient assistant. Damien informed me of contact from Norm at Discreet Investigation and suggested involving him in dealings with my current attorney. Grateful for the insight, I left, impressed by Damien's shrewdness and the hospitality of his firm. I paused, considering Anne's suggestion before agreeing to brunch on Sunday morning, acknowledging the need to keep a low profile until matters were resolved. Spending the day reviewing our bills, I set up alerts for transactions exceeding $1,000, wary of potential deception. That night, George's email and Candace's call seemed routine, yet their lack of concern for altering plans troubled me. Norm's update confirmed surveillance was in place, advising patience as deceivers seldom altered their schemes. By Saturday afternoon, my suspicions were confirmed as surveillance revealed Candace's involvement in a debauched rendezvous at a nearby hotel. Disgusted, I checked out, heading home to prepare for brunch with Damien as planned. Returning to my apartment, memories of closeness with Candace clashed with the reality of her infidelity. Overwhelmed, I purged my emotions, vowing never to remain in such tainted surroundings again. An hour later, I arrived at Damien's penthouse in downtown Melbourne via Uber. I was greeted by his wife Mel and daughter Colleen, who entertained me for the next hour. Despite Colleen's surprising blend of sophistication and modesty, I enjoyed a delightful brunch with them before she excused herself, leaving Damien, Mel, and me to converse. Observing Damien's casual attire, I couldn't help but note the contrast from our initial encounter. He chuckled at my observation, explaining that while his professional demeanor was necessary, his invitations stemmed from genuine friendship. Mel shared her empathy, revealing her own experience of betrayal in her previous marriage. Damien tenderly comforted her, underscoring the severity of my situation compared to hers. Recalling her tumultuous past, Mel empathized with my anguish, describing her own ordeal of discovering her first husband's infidelity. Damien's law firm had facilitated her divorce, but their relationship had developed independently of that encounter. Damien grinned, glancing at his wife. "My tale's a tad different," he said. "I was engaged to Cherry, but our split stemmed from her disapproval of my demanding hours as a law firm partner. It wasn't a messy breakup, just a breakup. About a month before Mel's divorce was finalized, we crossed paths at a coffee shop downstairs. I was drawn to her, pregnant belly and all." "You mean?" I interjected, eyeing Mel, who blushed. They affirmed. "Yes, Colleen is Lawrence's daughter," Mel clarified. "I discovered this a few weeks later, but it didn't alter my feelings," Damien added. "I promptly adopted Colleen at age 2 when Mel and I wed. Lawrence gladly signed the papers, relieved to dodge child support obligations. We sat in silence, absorbing the revelation. Eventually, I broke the quietude, sipping my coffee. "So, what became of Lawrence?" I inquired. Damien chuckled. "He fell ill with several STDs over the following year. We lost track, but last we heard, he was in a shared house, working customer service for a telecom giant," he disclosed, sighing. "If that's what makes him content, so be it." "Though he owed Mel honesty," Damien remarked, Mel squeezing his hand affectionately. "True, but our union emerged from it." "I can't regret that, despite the pain," Mel reflected. Damien nodded, somewhat guarded. We continued chatting, Colleen joining us briefly before retreating to her room to chat with friends on Discord. "And you, Thomas?" Mel inquired, refilling our cups with her expertly brewed coffee. I glanced at Damien, raising an eyebrow. He waved off any sense of formality. "You're not under scrutiny," he assured me. "Just friends offering support to someone in need." It was the first genuine smile I'd managed since my ordeal began. I peered into my coffee as if seeking guidance for the future. "No," I began, realizing Damien must have shared my financial prospects. Mel shook her head, smiling. "No, he only mentioned you were going through a rough patch and hinted at your wife's infidelity," she disclosed. Damien's expression prompted me to share my story. "Well," I began, inhaling deeply, "Candace and I have been married for a while now. We were considering starting a family soon, but then a colleague at work revealed that my wife was having an affair with my boss. He used to be my lawyer." Damien nodded, acknowledging the revelation. "It seems this has been going on for quite some time, given their attendance at these conferences for years," he commented. "Based on what I've gathered from reports, videos, and photos, it seems to align with your suspicions," he added. I blushed at the confirmation. So, the first step is to address the situation at home. They all need to go, I declared, noticing a carnivorous gleam in Damien's eyes, which he quickly tried to conceal with a blush. It's all right, Damien. I know you relish the challenge, I reassured him. He chuckled, and I sighed, shifting my gaze from my coffee to the couple before me and then to the tranquil view of Melbourne from the balcony. The weekend calm enveloped the city, offering me a sense of serenity. I'll start by obtaining a comprehensive report from Norm, I proposed, and Damien agreed. Then, I'll enforce the terms of the marriage contract with Candace and pursue legal action against everyone involved, I continued. Damien chuckled, but Mel's expression turned serious. Thomas, she interjected, leaning forward. While it's necessary to address these matters, what about you personally? Your wealth seems to be at the root of this betrayal. Your situation appears to be more dire than my ex-husband's. You've been deceived by everyone. I've struggled with feelings of inadequacy for some time, and considering what you've revealed, I imagine your ordeal will be far more challenging, she empathized, her gaze softening. It might not have fully hit you yet, she acknowledged. It took me weeks to come to terms with it. You'll need assistance, support, and likely therapy, she advised candidly. I shrugged, acknowledging her insight. Perhaps, I conceded, returning my gaze to the cityscape. I'm serious, Thomas, she insisted. Damien and I want to stand by you. He's a force to be reckoned with in the workplace. I smiled, gazing at the city. But he's also very selective about our social circle. Your presence here this morning speaks volumes about how highly he regards you. I turned to them, surprised. Damien blushed faintly and shrugged. I'm not quick to make friends, he admitted. You're like me in that you're successful, savvy, and no-nonsense, he observed, glancing at his wife. After hearing your story, I thought about what Mel went through. We decided we could be a support for you, he explained. I felt touched. I hadn't expected this softer side from him or such genuine concern from a lawyer. We spent the next couple of hours discussing my situation more openly. Mel emphasized the emotional toll, and by the time I left to check into another hotel across town, I felt more emotionally overwhelmed. Yet for the first time, I sensed I had support. I talked to Candace briefly. When she called later that evening, she spoke as if nothing was amiss, but I had received Norm's report. During this period, I matched her phone call timing with the incriminating video. Damien advised me to continue going to the office until he had all necessary legal documents ready. I tried, but it was apparent that something was off. By late Tuesday morning, Iona approached me, sensing my distress. Thomas, you look awful. Did you find out something? She asked softly, trying not to draw attention. I nodded slowly. It's worse than we discussed, judging by your demeanor, she remarked, almost anticipating it. I nodded again, trying to contain my frustration. I'm sorry, Thomas. Truly, she expressed sympathetically. I'm ashamed. I'm the one who brought this to your attention. Her German accent lent a solemnity to the word ashamed. Don't be, I reassured her, feeling a surge of determination to navigate through this ordeal as she empathized with my pain. Without you, I'd still be in the dark about my situation. What's a betrayed man? She inquired. I gave her a simplified explanation, watching her eyes widen in shock and then soften with understanding as I summarized what I had learned, sparing her the graphic details. Tears welled in her eyes by the end of our conversation. Luckily, we were in my office. Being in a more public area would have only attracted more attention. I couldn't help but wonder if anyone at the company was aware of William Zax's knowledge about the affair. Iona suggested meeting for dinner that night, unable to maintain composure if I disclosed everything over dinner. Agreeing, we left shortly after work, as she had only 4 days left on her internship. Later that afternoon, Mary, our office manager, gave me an odd look in the hallway. After lunch, she spent hours in discussion with William. I feigned productivity for the rest of the day, observing both men closely. I had developed a trust in Damien, my new lawyer and confidant, after several conversations this week, as well as with Mel. Damien's part of the inner circle, I informed my investigator. What's the latest intel? How's it worse than what we've uncovered? Norm's next words jolted me out of my week-long confusion. They've discussed the possibility of eliminating you in about 3 years, he revealed. Damien and I reacted in unison. What? Norm explained further. Not immediately, but they've talked about orchestrating your demise in a few years, dividing your trust among themselves. Stunned, I processed the chilling information. Norm continued. Their method isn't finalized, but poisoning through your food has been considered, possibly by your wife. Shock replaced my initial disbelief. The upside is they're still in the planning stage, Norm added, revealing Roger's involvement as a chemist capable of concocting a lethal compound. I struggled to comprehend my wife's involvement. But why? I protested. We're married, and my assets are hers too. Why resort to such extremes? My anguish was evident as I grappled with the betrayal. Norm shrugged, emphasizing how people often make foolish decisions regarding money. He reassured us that despite their sinister intentions, they hadn't taken any action yet. His team remained vigilant, seeking counseling to cope with the stress of the investigation. After discussing further details, Norm provided Damien and me with a USB drive containing additional evidence. Damien outlined his plan for the upcoming week, which included preparing divorce papers and initiating legal action against Candace's workplace and her accomplices. He also arranged for the sale of the condo and discussed informing the police about the homicide plot. That evening, I confided in Jonah, who was shocked by the ordeal I was enduring. The following days passed in a semblance of normalcy, albeit tinged with paranoia. Changing lodging each night, I tried to evade potential threats. On Thursday, Norm summoned me to a meeting where I found Damien already present, his expression grave. As we sat down, I sensed impending bad news. Norm revealed that my job performance had suffered due to personal issues, prompting my boss to involve Candace. My heart sank as I realized the extent of their interference, exacerbated by Norm's somber tone. So, my wife enjoying herself with my boss, her boss, my lawyer, my friend, and a few others at my workplace, I summarized with a touch of disdain. Norm confirmed, nodding. Unfortunately, yes, he replied. Recognizing the severity of the situation, he invited Damien, my new attorney, to join our discussion to ensure he was informed of our next steps. We devised a plan to keep them unaware for as long as possible, allowing me time to navigate the impending chaos. This meant laying low at work for the remainder of the week before taking decisive action. We continued strategizing even as I received a call from Candace, which I ignored to maintain appearances. The following day, we celebrated Iona's successful internship with a farewell party at work. Amidst the festivities, she discreetly inquired about my well-being, and we agreed to meet for drinks later. I focused on work and received encouraging smiles from colleagues as I completed tasks. In the evening, over drinks with Iona, I received a call from Mel, who suggested a trip to watch penguins near Phillip Island, emphasizing the need for nature and supportive friends during this challenging time. Grateful for the invitation, I asked if I could bring a friend along. Iona glanced at me as I heard Mel chuckle. Sure, what's her name? Mel's voice was filled with amusement. Her name's Iona. She's the one who brought me up to speed, I explained. After arranging a time and place to meet, I hung up. Iona looked at me curiously. Did you just ask me out indirectly by calling another woman? She teased. Seeing the panic on my face, Iona laughed and reassured me. Relax, Thomas, she said, patting my arm. I understand you need friends right now, so where are we going? And did I hear something about penguins? The next morning at 7:30, Jonah and I met Damien, Mel, and Colleen at a gas station outside of town. I was surprised when they arrived in a vibrant yellow 2019 Mustang. The roar of the V8 engine impressed me as they pulled up next to my own 2020 V8. Looks like Mac one knew I had good taste, Damien quipped, greeting us. After brief introductions, we hit the road. Damien joked about the joy of two big block V8 engines cruising together. By the time we reached Phillip Island, I was beaming. Damien's racing spirit and Jonah's enjoyment added to the fun of our trip. As we drove, we sang along to Spiderbait's rendition of Black Betty. Spending the day with the penguins was delightful. While we've all seen them before, penguins never fail to charm. Enjoying fish and chips for lunch, I felt grateful for supportive friends. Towards the end of the day, Jonah took my hand, and it felt natural. Despite being married, I valued fidelity. Half an hour before heading back, Colleen orchestrated a stroll with Jonah and Damien, leaving Mel and me behind. Mel seized the opportunity to confide in me. She revealed that Jonah wanted to postpone her plans to support me during the coming month. It caught me off guard, but I appreciated Jonah's gesture. Approaching the penguins, Mel chuckled, signaling that the journey home would be as enjoyable as the outing. Spotting a tavern ahead, I informed Damien that Jonah and I would make a pit stop. We bid farewell, appreciating the time spent together. Surprisingly, Jonah and I had a relaxed conversation on our way back, and upon reaching the tavern, we settled in for an early summer evening. As dusk settled in, we ordered drinks and food, indulging in the relaxed atmosphere. The atmosphere grew serious. "Thomas," she began, and I met her gaze. I had previously mentioned some basic details about Iona, who was now playing a crucial role in my life. Iona, born in Germany, immigrated to Australia at the age of 4. She had a penchant for numbers and was currently pursuing her graduate studies while interning across the country. Physically, she stood at a petite 5 feet 2 inches. "I can guess the gist of your conversation with Mel. You're going through a tough time, and right now, you need a friend more than anything," she said, pausing hesitantly. "That's what I want to be for you. A friend above all else." Her gaze shifted momentarily, but she kept hold of my hands. "However, as we've grown closer over the past weeks, I've come to realize that my feelings for you might be more than just friendship. Actually, I'm certain of it. Do you understand what I mean?" Her sincerity touched me deeply. Despite knowing that I was dealing with personal challenges, she expressed her interest in a romantic relationship. "Iona, I began, then stopped, sensing her disappointment. I squeezed her hands reassuringly. "You're an incredible woman, and you're right. I need friends foremost right now. But truth be told, amidst all the confusion, I've found myself drawn to you as well." I left my statement hanging. Life's pendulum can swing swiftly from joy to sorrow, and Jonah experienced this firsthand. One moment she seemed apprehensive, but the next, her face lit up with radiant happiness. We spent the rest of the evening chatting about our interests, from movies to music to our shared love for Mustangs. As we conversed, I shared the story of my family's tragedy and the existence of my trust fund, which surprised her. "Why are you working at Simon and Zach's then?" she inquired after hearing my tale. I shrugged, explaining that my original plan had been to gain experience there for a few years before launching an investment company, a dream I had discussed with my late father. However, their untimely passing led me to remain at the firm. The mention of my parents' passaways sobered the conversation. "Sorry, Thomas," Jonah said, her tone sincere. "When I look at you, I see a man who is focused, but has no tolerance for fools, despite his own humility." I chuckled, grateful for her words. "Thanks," I replied. "You're a good man," she continued, noting my composure amidst the turmoil. "You haven't lost your temper, unlike them," referring to my wife and her lovers. "No, not like they're planning to do to me," I replied grimly, unintentionally shocking her. Realizing my slip, I recounted the key details of my investigator's findings. The plot to eliminate me after Candace's baby is born. Iona was horrified, her eyes welling up with tears. "You're taking action, right? This has to be a crime," she said, her grip on my hand tightening. Concern etched her face, almost as if she feared for my safety, I assured her. "Damien is handling it. Everything will unfold next week." She released my hand, her voice almost hysterical. "Your wife is plotting to eliminate you," she exclaimed. We continued talking, and as we headed back to my car, she held my hand tightly, scanning our surroundings anxiously. "It's okay, Iona," I reassured her, squeezing her hand. "We're safe, and if anyone is watching, I have a fast car. We can outrun them." Her laughter broke the tension, and our conversation on the way home was subdued. As I dropped her off, we shared a tight hug, and in a moment of vulnerability, I kissed her softly on the lips. Blushing, we both realized the potential of our relationship. Driving away, I felt a sense of relief thanks to Damien, Mel, and Colleen, but especially Jonah. A couple of streets away, my phone rang. It was Candace. "Baby," she said with concern. "Where are you? I've been trying to reach you." "Sorry, Candace," I responded, explaining my day at Phillip Island with friends. "It was a great day," I added, sharing the joy of watching Colleen with the penguins. "They make you appreciate happiness in a different light." I wasn't lying. Watching Colleen with the penguins was hilarious. She loved feeding them the bait fish we bought, and at one point, a group of penguins followed her around looking for more food. "You know, maybe we can start trying for a baby of our own when I get back." "You're giving me nothing but trouble," Candace said. "Yeah, right," I thought. "Have a baby so you can poison me later." "See you later, Candace. How's the conference going? Did you go?" I asked, diverting the conversation. "Oh yeah, the conference went great. We really did a lot of studying," she said, clueless to my suspicion. "And yes, a group of us, including my boss, are going out for a few drinks. Don't worry, my boss is keeping an eye on me to make sure no outsiders trespass on my virtue." Sure, I thought, as if this woman had any virtue at all. I lost interest in the conversation, letting her talk while I tuned out. She ended the call with, "I love you," but I didn't bother reciprocating. For the next week, I arrived early at work every day, ensuring all my tasks were completed on time. I suspected Mary and William were up to something with Candace and George, but I couldn't figure out what. As the week progressed, they glanced at me less frequently, which only heightened my suspicions. I changed hotels frequently, feeling paranoid even before discovering the plot against me. Spending evenings with Jonah, we packed up my apartment, storing my belongings in a company shed for free. Candace's items were moved out with storage paid for 60 days, giving her time to sort out her affairs. Reviewing Norm's reports daily, one night I inadvertently showed Jonah some pictures from the report, causing her to rush to the bathroom and vomit. When she returned, she was livid, expressing her fury at my soon-to-be ex-wife's behavior. Monday morning arrived, marking game day. The cheaters were expected back early, while I was set to depart for a month in Cairns, North Queensland. I went to work as usual, attending a staff meeting where William announced George's return tomorrow. Mary's scrutiny caught my attention for the first time since my induction, prompting me to alert Damien for potential conspiracy charges. Shortly before lunch, declining an invitation to dine with the group, I swiftly left, initiating a race on my laptop before departing. Leaving my keys and cards on my desk, I intended to resign, with Damien's team tasked to deliver the letter later. At the office exit, the company car driver greeted me, driving me to the airport. Iona bid me farewell with one of her chaste kisses, and at the airport, Damien and Mel saw us off. Damien handed me a new phone with a private number known to only a few, ensuring confidentiality. Flying business class with Iona to Cairns, we enjoyed champagne on board. Upon landing, another driver escorted us to a cozy bed and breakfast for our first week's stay. Run by an elderly gay couple, the B&B boasted a stunning view of the sunset over the water. Our room featured a double bed, attached bathroom with a double shower and whirlpool tub, offering luxury and comfort. The owners shared that they had remodeled recently, offering 2 king bedrooms and 4 superior rooms, ensuring a delightful stay. On the way from the airport to the hotel, I received a text from Damien, confirming the deed was done. "You're free now. Turn off your phone," he advised. And I complied, feeling nervous upon settling in for the night with Jonah. We both felt the weight of expectations, but it turned out we had nothing to worry about. After retiring to the bedroom, we drifted off to sleep. The next morning, Jonah inquired about my well-being, to which I responded enthusiastically, praising the night before. She gleefully confirmed that her plan had worked, and we expressed our commitment to each other. Over breakfast, we savored the cuisine and explored attractions like the Daintree Rainforest and the Great Barrier Reef. By the end of the week, I'd even forgotten about my cell phone until Damien, Mel, and Colleen joined us, sharing news of 9 arrests related to the homicide conspiracy, including some familiar faces from our past. I leaned back, bewildered. 9 people wanted me dead? I exclaimed. Sort of, Damien explained. They admitted no personal animosity toward you. In fact, they praised you as a nice guy. But they conspired to profit from your trust after your pass away, blaming each other. Except Candace. She broke down upon finding you gone, as the divorce papers show. She's now under observation at Ramsey Hospital. I hand-delivered your resignation, sparking the closure of your former workplace with immediate termination for all. Their survival seems unlikely. Similar story at Candace's workplace, and I witnessed the arrest of Mr. Randwick Johnston, quite satisfying professionally. No charges against me, he added with a wink, and we chuckled. What about Roger? I inquired. He got nabbed too. His wife was clueless, thinking he was on a work trip, not cavorting with a friend's wife. I offered to represent her pro bono, Damien shared. Mel playfully slapped Damien. Quit teasing, kid. We all chuckled, digging for more details. Mel glanced at Jonah and me holding hands. Well, that didn't take long, did it? She remarked. Iona blushed, then admitted, I asked him to hold me the first night. I ensured he stayed in the room, keeping him occupied so he wouldn't dwell on the situation. Damien ended up spewing coffee through his nose the next day, much to Mel's amusement. I just grinned like the Cheshire Cat. Mel assured me, You'll be fine, Thomas, glancing between Jonah and me. And she's a keeper. They accompanied us for the next week, joining us on day trips, overnight stays at casinos, and even a light airplane flight to the Daintree coast. Afterward, they returned home to Melbourne while we flew to Brisbane. There, Iona introduced me to her parents as her boyfriend, and I gladly played the role. We made headlines one night in Brisbane, though my name wasn't mentioned. And when Jonah informed my parents, they nearly panicked until we clarified the situation. They were the epitome of honesty and trustworthiness. Throughout our journey, we explored Brisbane for a week, followed by another week in Sydney. By the end of the month, neither Jonah nor I could envision life without each other. Towards the trip's end, we broached the topics of marriage and children. I assured her that once my divorce was finalized, we'd become engaged. It wasn't a conventional proposal, but she understood, confident that when the time came, I'd propose properly. When children came up, she blushed. "I have something to tell you, Thomas," she began. "I might be pregnant," she confessed, her voice tinged with shyness as she awaited my reaction. With a sigh, she added, "My period is due in a few days, so we'll know soon." Looking at me expectantly, she awaited my response. "Are you kidding?" I chuckled. "No, I've thought about it too," I confessed honestly. "I've been hoping for an accidental pregnancy. I can't think of anyone I'd rather have a baby with than you these past few months." Sadly, she woke up the next morning with her period. I kissed her with a disappointed expression, murmuring, "Maybe next month. In the meantime, we'll have to practice a lot." As our vacation came to an end, we returned to Melbourne and stayed overnight at Iona's place. She convinced the landlord to extend her apartment lease for a few more months instead of heading north. Although it was a small apartment outside of town, Iona felt a bit embarrassed after our month-long stays in bed and breakfasts across the country. I playfully teased her with questions about every little detail in the apartment until she was giggling uncontrollably. The next day, we visited Damien's office to look for new places to live. During lunch, Mel surprised us with coffee. "What brings you here, Mel?" Iona inquired, puzzled by her unexpected visit. "I heard you were here, so I thought I'd drop by to see how you're doing and bring you some coffee," Mel explained with a sip of her own coffee. Sensing something was amiss, Iona asked, "Is everything all right?" Mel shrugged, her expression betraying her concern. "It's not going too well, Mel. I'm not pregnant yet," Iona sighed, her disappointment evident. Moments later, Mel accidentally spilled coffee on the conference room table, prompting laughter from me. "Excuse me," I chuckled, explaining to Mel that Jonah and I were trying for a baby. "After the past month, we just decided to see what happens." "That's quick," Mel remarked, a hint of concern in her tone. We nodded in agreement. "Maybe," Iona dismissed, her gaze affectionate as she looked at me. Mel observed us for a moment before changing the subject, asking about our presence at the office. Upon learning that we were house hunting, Mel readily agreed to assist. She spent the next couple of hours helping us identify our preferences and requirements, considering the possibility of accommodating a baby. Damien stopped by briefly, flashing a smile as he overheard the conversation between the two women in the kitchen. Over the following month, we visited several properties and eventually settled on 3 apartments and a house. Iona conceded that it was my money, but I insisted it would be our home, chosen together. We ultimately selected a penthouse apartment in a slightly older building at the bottom of Collins Street. It offered easy access to major highways, fast public transportation, and proximity to various dining options. The apartment itself was stunning, featuring 3 modest bedrooms and a spacious master bedroom with a view of Melbourne Park. The building boasted amenities like a pool, sauna, gym, and a 24-hour concierge service. With 2 garage spaces, we could conveniently park both my Mustang and the new Jeep Iona purchased. It felt like a luxurious hotel we could call home. With Mel's help, we furnished the apartment, transforming it in just an afternoon. Within a month, we had settled in, a timely move since Jonah's period didn't arrive that month. Now, almost 9 months later, Jonah is 6 months old, and we have our baby boy. Our apartment is now adorned with soft baby proofing on every surface, and we've fully embraced our new life as parents. We've transformed one room into a nursery, another into a guest bedroom, and a third into a home office. Jonah and I have launched a new investment firm. Currently, we have a modest capital of a few $1,000,000, as I'm still awaiting access to my trust in a couple of years. Iona, who excels in numbers, holds a 10% stake in the venture. Although she initially declined any ownership, I convinced Mel to be transparent, which led to our only disagreement. I now hold a 70% stake, with an investor owning 15%, and Damien and Mel holding the remaining 5%, solidifying our close friendship. The contrast between Damien the lawyer and Damien the friend never fails to amaze me. As my attorney, he was a formidable force, securing judgments against Candace and my former employers, leading both companies into administration, but with substantial liquid assets. This ensured substantial compensation for Jonah and me. He also secured a favorable outcome for Roger's wife, who received the majority of their assets. while Roger received a 30-year prison sentence, along with others involved in the plot against me. I received a plea for mercy from William and George, which I promptly disregarded in front of Damien. He took great pleasure in dismantling my former lawyer during the trial. Although I hadn't focused much on Candace during the proceedings, she received a 35-year sentence without parole. Her parents were the only ones who expressed sympathy, but even their support waned upon learning the extent of her actions. The judge granted a divorce based on her offenses against me, expressing disgust at their actions and the havoc they caused. Per the prenuptial agreement, Candace left with her belongings and $15,000 to start anew, which I placed in a trust fund for her future needs. Due to her mental health, she didn't attend the hearing and was transferred to a medium-security prison's medical unit. She requested a visit from me, which I agreed to, ensuring it wouldn't affect the divorce proceedings. 6 weeks later, I found myself in a secure meeting room in the prison's medical wing, ready to meet with Candace. In the stark room, characterized by a bolted-down table, chairs secured with chains, and the omnipresent one-way mirror that seemed straight out of a crime drama, I sat awaiting the arrival of my ex-wife. It had been a tense 10 minutes since the doctor and the guard escorted her in. Candace looked disheveled, her usually neat brown hair tousled, indicating a tumultuous state of mind. Her eyes darted around, searching for something, perhaps for reassurance or escape. Yet when her gaze landed on me, a peculiar calmness settled over her, like a storm finding peace in the eye. But there was a more conspicuous detail. Candace was visibly pregnant, her belly protruding noticeably. Despite her disheveled appearance, she wore a faint smile, almost a mask of serenity. "I'm nearly a week overdue, Thomas," she confessed softly, her hand instinctively resting on her swollen abdomen. Concern washed over me, but before I could voice it, the doctor signaled to maintain composure, and I assured Candace that everything would be okay, urging her to await the impending birth with patience. Then came her confession, laden with regret and sorrow. She spoke of never harboring ill intentions toward me, emphasizing that the coercion and manipulation by others led her astray. The weight of her words hung heavy in the air as she revealed the pressure to act at what they deemed the opportune moment post-birth. It was a revelation that pierced through the thick tension of the room, laying bare the complexity of her situation and the turmoil within her. Despite our estrangement, she clung to a glimmer of hope for redemption, tethered to the belief that our impending child could serve as a beacon of renewal. Her plea for forgiveness echoed softly, a fragile thread connecting us across the chasm of past grievances. Caught in the emotional whirlwind of her confession, I struggled to find words, my thoughts swirling with a mix of empathy, skepticism, and unresolved pain. "Our baby will bring us back together. Once the baby arrives, I'll be released, and we can start anew as a family. I promise to protect you from them," Candace pleaded, her words tumbling out in a disjointed stream. "You're my top priority, Thomas. The others were just distractions, interested in each other more than me. They used me for money. It's just us and our baby now." For the next 15 minutes, she continued to express her desire for reconciliation and a future together, interspersed with moments of clarity and remorse. Tears streaked her face as she acknowledged her mistakes and confessed her guilt. "I betrayed everyone. I was greedy and unfaithful. I even planned to damage you. I'm nothing but a wretched, despicable woman who deserves punishment." Growing increasingly agitated, she bared her emotions, urging me to inflict pain upon her as a form of retribution. "I still love you, Thomas, despite everything," she lamented, stripping off her prison garments in a desperate plea for absolution. In a moment of vulnerability, she revealed the anguish of knowing the baby wasn't mine, and the regret of her past actions. Feeling powerless, I remained by her side as she grappled with her demons. "It was meant to be yours," she repeated, her voice echoing with sorrow. As the doctor intervened to guide her toward stability, Candace reluctantly retreated, bidding me a bittersweet farewell. "Live well, Thomas," she whispered, a poignant reminder of our shared past and uncertain future. And with that, she departed, leaving behind a trail of remorse and unspoken longing. A week later, the phone rang, and it was Candace's doctor on the line. He expressed his gratitude for my visit and informed me of Candace's delivery, a healthy baby girl. The doctor mentioned that DNA testing was underway to identify the father, and Candace, showing remarkable foresight, suggested putting the baby up for adoption to ensure she grew up in a loving environment rather than navigating the uncertainties of the foster care system. That evening, still reeling from my encounter with Candace, I found solace as Jonah gently placed my head on her stomach. where I felt the gentle kicks of our unborn son. It was a poignant moment, contrasting the newfound hope of impending fatherhood with the complexities of Candace's situation. 2 months later, our family expanded with the arrival of John Thomas, bringing both joy and a sense of responsibility. In a moment of compassion, I approached Damien, asking if there was a possibility of adopting Candace's daughter. After careful consideration, little Macy, Candace's child with Randy, became a part of our family. Damien, ever the tenacious lawyer, secured a modest child support payment for Macy's future education, ensuring she had some financial security. Jonah embraced Macy with unwavering love, treating her no differently than our biological children. We were firm in our belief that children should not suffer for the mistakes of their parents. Our family continued to grow, with our marriage a year later, followed by the addition of a baby sister during our honeymoon, and then a baby brother. As Macy reached adulthood, we felt it was time to reveal the truth about her origins and our history with her birth parents. It was a tumultuous week filled with mixed emotions, but with Aunt Mel's guidance, Macy found solace in the unwavering love of our family. A meeting with Randy took a dark turn, resulting in his injury and subsequent isolation. However, our encounter with Candace revealed a different side. Despite her frailty, she was moved to tears upon seeing Macy standing before her, prompting a heartfelt moment of reconciliation and remorse in the visitors' lounge. Macy, displaying her polite nature, approached Candace, offering her assistance and guiding her to the table. Standing back, Jonah and I observed as Macy introduced herself, revealing that she knew Candace was her birth mother. Candace broke into tears again, though we had forewarned the guards of the emotional reunion. After Candace underwent a thorough search, we were permitted a brief moment of embracing. Witnessing the heartfelt interaction between my adopted daughter and ex-wife, I couldn't help but be moved. Jonah, wiping away a tear, jokingly attributed it to pollen. My wife then led me over to Candace, and we spent the next hour conversing. Candace expressed her gratitude for my adoption of Macy, revealing she had no knowledge of her daughter's life after giving her up. The act of adopting Macy seemed to positively impact Candace's demeanor, as noted by her improved behavior, according to the doctors. Although she still had some time left in her sentence, the prison reported a significant improvement in Candace's conduct since the encounter. Macy, following her mother and Aunt Mel's encouragement, visited Candace on special occasions, fostering a connection despite their distant relationship. While I had started to forgive Candace, it was clear to both of us that our relationship would never extend beyond civility. For Jonah and me, Candace remained the woman who once dared to challenge me. She continued to protectively guard me and remained wary of any potential threats, showcasing her loyalty in subtle ways, such as scolding in German when she sensed someone encroaching upon me.